Beloved, greetings in the name of Christ. Today is the day 6. One left to go. But just so that we're consistent, let me suggest to you that we're following along and we're in chapter 5, and now we're dealing with the female judge. Now, I did say that Ehud was chosen because of his disability, so please don't misunderstand when I talk about Deborah being chosen by a female judge. That certainly isn't a disability. The thing that I'd like you to look at is in verse 5 of chapter 5 of Judges. And it says, she held court under the palm of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim, and the Israelites came to her to have their disputes decided. Here's an interesting dynamic that we see in Deborah, is that she had a function in terms of justice. Her initial focus was this role of individually helping people sort out the right thing to do, the good thing to do, the just thing to do. She had a focus and an interest in justice issues. Now, the interesting thing is that in addition to that, Deborah is called a prophetess as well. And so she was one of the people whom were still open to the kinds of visions, the kind of perspective on history and contemporary events that God would provide her. And that happened not just individually with individual people, but it also happened for the nation. Now, the thing I want you to notice here is that the person who traditionally should take on the role of being the judge or being God's agent, Barak, who was in effect the general of the Israelite army, could have been the hero here. He could have been the transformative, definitive judge who be recorded in biblical history. But because of his unwillingness to share in this vision of relief and recovery and revival of God's program and God's plan, Deborah is recorded as the one who gets credit for being the judge. And even in terms of the actual conflict itself, Jabin, who was the anti-hero of the book of Judges here, even his capitulation is given as a result of jail a woman. And so the whole feminine aspect of being involved in God's great plan for the recovery of the nation is fundamentally all female. So I wonder if we're thinking about God measuring us. There are those of us who seem to be the person who should take the lead, who should be engaged in developing and progressing in terms of the plan and program of God. But there are those of us on a smaller scale, interested in individual issues, like Deborah was in terms of being the judge at Ramah and Bethel under the oak tree. There are those of us who have less responsibilities, but God gives us that opportunity to be in relationship with Him in a much larger role than we've already occupied. And it was Deborah's willingness to step forward, and it was her willingness to risk what she already had to team up with Barak to bring about this great recovery and restoration of God's people. And so I like to think, and I like to imagine that when God brings out His measuring tape and measures us, it's not on the basis of what we've already done. It's not on the basis of what the expectations of our role might be or what might be acceptable in the current culture that we're involved in. But it's on the basis of our faithfulness to God. It's on the basis of us of doing the small things, maybe the individual things, that will give him the ability to use us in great ways. Well, as you reflect upon this and as you sense God's measuring tape on you, we have one last judge to do on day 7, and he will be the judge who takes up the bulk of the book of Judges and gives us another small insight into how God uses his measuring tape. May God bless you today, and may God call you not just to the small roles, as important as they are, but to the great big roles as well. Blessings.